Opening hook, narration. What if I told you that your garden's most magical transformation could start with trash? Old bottles, forgotten tires, painted stones, even twisted roots. Things most people throw away can become stunning borders and edges that turn a tiny yard into something neighbors can't stop admiring. Welcome to Mind Over Decoration, where creativity meets simplicity. In this video, from trash to magical borders, 15 plus DIY recycled garden edging and tiny yard upcycling ideas you'll wish you tried sooner. You'll discover inspiring ways to recycle and upcycle for your backyard, patio, or small garden. This video includes timestamps so you can jump straight to the ideas you love most. And if you have questions, drop them in the comments. I'll be there to chat with you. Remember, you don't need expensive tools or materials. All you need is creativity and what you already have at home to bring these ideas to life. And before we begin, let me share something personal. Maybe to you, I'm just another face on a screen. But behind this content, there's a real story and a real family. Every like, every comment, every subscribe, it truly matters. When you hit that subscribe button, you're not just helping a creator grow. You're helping a dream stay alive. You're giving a small family hope, one click at a time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeing me. Now let's begin. Herb Sparkles. In the heart of a small backyard, where space is often a luxury, even the simplest material can be transformed into something magical. Imagine a row of discarded plastic bottles, once forgotten as trash, now standing proudly as a colorful garden fence. Their surfaces glisten with layers of paint, turquoise, crimson, butter yellow, like jewels sparkling beneath the summer sun. Each bottle cradles its own burst of life. Petunias spilling in waves of violet, marigolds glowing like tiny suns, and trailing lobelia cascading in delicate blue ribbons. The trick is surprisingly simple. Cut the tops of the bottles, fill them with rich soil, and line them along the garden's edge. When placed close together, they form a playful yet sturdy border, guiding the eye through the tiny yard while holding in the rhythm of blooming color. The transparent plastic catches light in unexpected ways, creating shimmering highlights that make even the smallest garden feel alive and abundant. It is more than just edging. It's a gentle reminder that beauty can rise from what we throw away. Children delight in choosing colors. Neighbors pause to admire the glow, and the garden itself seems to smile, framed in this mosaic of recycled brilliance. In summer, when flowers are at their fullest, The bottles stand not only as guardians of the soil, but as storytellers of resourcefulness, proof that creativity breathes life into the ordinary. What was once considered waste now sings with purpose. The fence does not merely divide, it celebrates the tiny yard, turning a humble space into a vibrant stage where nature and imagination bloom side by side. Sometimes, the simplest element of nature, a stone, can become the most magical storyteller when given a touch of color. Imagine stepping into a small garden and being greeted by a border of stones that look as though they've been dipped in a rainbow. Each rock, once dull and gray, now carries its own personality, one glowing in scarlet, another whispering in mint green, another shining with golden yellow. Together, they weave a tapestry of joy that dances beneath the summer sun. The process is as delightful as the result. Gather smooth, sturdy stones, wash away the soil, and let your imagination play with a palette of paints. Some stones can be brushed in solid hues, others dressed with stripes, dots, or even small floral motifs. As they dry, the colors deepen, creating a glossy shield that protects them against the weather. Placed along the garden's edge, they form a strong and lasting border that holds the soil, defines the space, and sparks wonder with every glance. In tiny yards or patios where every inch matters, these painted stones serve a double purpose. They are practical guardians of the garden bed, but also vibrant accents that make even a small space feel alive. Children love to choose their favorite shades. Neighbors smile at the playful brightness. And when the flowers bloom, marigolds glowing like flames, asters whispering in purple, daisies nodding in white, the stones seem to echo the colors of the petals, blending art and nature into a single canvas. It's a reminder that beauty doesn't have to be bought. With patience, creativity, and a little paint, even a handful of stones can transform a small garden into a stage where every step feels like walking through a living rainbow. There is something magical about seeing life where none was expected. A discarded tire, once heavy and forgotten, can suddenly take on the joyful spirit of an animal when touched by imagination. In a tiny garden or backyard patio, the edges come alive with playful characters. A cow painted with bold black and white spots, a cheerful chicken with bright feathers of red and yellow, a gentle goat watching over the flower bed, and even a turtle resting quietly near the daisies. The transformation begins with a simple idea. Clean the old tires, cut or shape them if needed, then paint them in bold, durable colors. With a few strokes of white, a cow's face appears. With a splash of orange and red, the chicken springs to life. With green tones and patterned designs, a turtle shell emerges. The details, eyes drawn with circles, ears cut from smaller pieces, tails painted with quick flicks, give each tire its personality. Once placed along the garden border, they create not just edging, but a storybook scene. Children laugh and point at their favorite animals. Neighbors stop to admire the creativity, and the garden itself seems to become a tiny farm alive with color and character. Flowers planted within the tires spill out like manes, feathers, and tails, adding another layer of whimsy to the design. Marigolds glow like golden wool, trailing nasturtiums cascade like feathers, and petunias soften the edges with their summer charm. This kind of edging is more than decoration. It is durability, functionality, and joy woven together. The tires protect the soil, mark the garden's borders, and stand firm through the seasons, while also inviting a smile with every glance. In the smallest yards, these animal tire borders turn an ordinary edge into a lively, unforgettable stage where recycling meets imagination. In the quiet corner of a small patio, where flowers press gently against the sunlight, a rustic fence of branches rises from the earth like an old tale told anew. There is no polish here, no perfection, only the beauty of nature shaped by human hands. Each stick, rough with bark and twisted by the years, has been gathered, chosen, and bound together with simple twine. Side by side, they form a miniature wall, humble yet strong, holding the blooms in a soft embrace. Creating such a fence requires little more than patience and imagination. Branches collected after pruning or storms are trimmed to similar lengths, then woven or tied in place. Some lean against one another like old friends. Others stand proudly vertical, their bark patterns telling a story of growth. The gaps allow sunlight and wind to pass, but the frame they create gives structure to the garden, a natural border that feels timeless. Behind this rustic edge, marigolds burn bright like tiny suns, lavender hums with the presence of bees, and daisies nod their white petals in approval. The fence is not just decoration. It protects, defines, and guides the eye across the tiny garden. In the evening, when shadows stretch long, the branches glow softly, their silhouettes blending with the plants they guard. Neighbors might smile at its simplicity, yet it is precisely this unpolished charm that makes the fence unforgettable. It feels as though it has always been there, grown from the land itself. Durable, free, and filled with character, it proves that even the smallest scraps of wood can shape a garden into a story of resilience and grace. This rustic branch fence whispers of old countryside paths, of gardens where time moves slower, and of hands that see beauty not in newness, but in the life already lived by the wood. As the sun dips below the horizon and the garden takes on the soft hues of twilight, a gentle glow begins to awaken along the pathway. At first, it seems like fireflies gathering in secret, but step closer and you will see rows of recycled plastic bottles transformed into lanterns, each cradling its own light. They stand like sentinels, guiding the way through the tiny yard with a warm and welcoming shimmer. The creation is wonderfully simple. Clear bottles, once tossed aside as trash, are washed clean and painted in soft tones. Turquoise like the sea, rose like summer skies at dusk, golden like the heart of a marigold. Small solar LED lights or strings of fairy bulbs are slipped inside, turning each bottle into a glowing jewel. When placed firmly into the soil along a path or patio border, they become more than decoration. They become stars born of human hands. The effect is enchanting. As evening settles, the pathway transforms into a ribbon of light. The flowers nearby, petunias, daisies, zinnias, catch the glow on their petals, their colors deepening in the warmth of the illumination. Children linger longer in the garden, charmed by the magic, and neighbors pause at the fence, curious about this glowing trail. Practical yet poetic, the bottle lights require no wiring, no heavy construction. They thrive on the sun's energy, storing daylight to return it as gentle radiance by night. In a small space, they expand the hours of enjoyment, making the backyard not just a place for daydreams, but also for evening gatherings, quiet walks, and whispered stories under the stars. Here, trash has been reborn as wonder. With every glow, the bottles remind us that even the smallest spark, when nurtured with creativity, can turn darkness into beauty and a humble garden path into a memory to be cherished. There is a quiet magic in contrasts, stone and glass, rough and smooth, ancient and new. In a tiny backyard garden, these opposites find harmony in a border that blends strength with playfulness. Large stones, heavy and timeless, sit firmly in the soil, their earthy colors grounding the space. Between them, bright plastic bottles rise, painted in joyful shades of lavender, mint, and rose, or filled with blooming flowers that spill gently over their rims. Together, they create a rhythm, like notes of music lined along the edge of the flower bed. To craft such a border, one begins with the stones, washed, placed carefully to anchor the structure. Between them, bottles are cleaned, cut, or painted, then secured into the soil. Some are left transparent, catching the light like jewels. Others are filled with soil and planted with petunias, marigolds, or trailing nasturtiums. The result is sturdy and long-lasting, the stones providing weight, the bottles bringing color and creativity. As sunlight shifts across the garden, the stones cast cool shadows while the painted bottles shimmer, glowing as though lit from within. The flowers behind them, daisies, zinnias, asters, seem to echo the colors of the bottles, blending natural and crafted beauty into one seamless picture. Children delight in the playful mix. Neighbors admire its originality, and the gardener knows that what was once trash has become a mosaic of resilience and joy. This edging is more than just a boundary. It tells a story of balance, the patience of stone, the transformation of plastic, and the endless bloom of summer flowers. In small gardens, where every detail matters, such a border does not simply hold the soil. It frames the space with personality, durability, and a spark of wonder. Sometimes the smallest spaces offer the greatest opportunities for creativity. Along a simple garden fence, what was once a collection of empty bottles now hangs like a gallery of living art. Each bottle, cut and shaped with care, cradles soil and life. Petunias spilling over in waves of violet, marigolds glowing like tiny suns, nasturtiums cascading in orange trails. Together, they turn an ordinary fence into a vertical garden of color, dancing with every summer breeze. The method is straightforward yet endlessly rewarding. Plastic bottles are washed and cut, their shapes adjusted to form openings for soil and roots. A few strokes of pastel paint, lavender, mint, butter yellow, add charm while protecting the plastic from weather. With twine or wire, each bottle is secured to the fence, aligned in playful rows or staggered patterns. When filled with soil and planted, they transform instantly into small floating gardens. The effect is breathtaking. Against the wooden fence, the painted bottles glow with brightness, and the flowers inside them appear to float like lanterns of nature. In tiny yards, where ground space is scarce, this vertical design multiplies the joy of gardening, allowing blooms to rise and frame the space with layers of texture and color. Children enjoy watching the plants grow at eye level, plucking herbs for the kitchen or watering their favorite blossoms. Neighbors passing by often pause, charmed by the unexpected beauty of recycled bottles turned into a tapestry of flowers. Even in the evening, the fence retains its charm, as the bottles catch the last rays of sunlight, glowing softly like stained glass. This hanging bottle garden is more than DIY decor. It is a celebration of space reclaimed, of waste transformed, of joy created in the smallest corners. It shows that with imagination, even a fence can bloom, and even trash can sing with the colors of summer. Nature often leaves behind treasures, hidden in what many would consider waste. Old roots, tangled and twisted, carry the memory of years beneath the soil. When lifted and placed with intention, they become sculptures, guardians of the garden, storytellers of time. Along the edge of a tiny yard, these roots now stand as a border, shaping the garden with their rugged beauty. The process begins with discovery. After a storm, or when trees are cleared, roots appear, gnarled, intricate, and rich with character. Instead of discarding them, they are cleaned and trimmed, preserving their natural curves. Some roots may be brushed to reveal lighter tones, others left dark and mossy for a more ancient look. Anchored firmly into the soil, they create a border that feels both wild and intentional, as if the earth itself rose to frame the flowers. Behind these natural sculptures, summer blooms rise, lavender with its calming scent, marigolds burning with gold, daisies lifting their white faces to the sky. The contrast is striking. The softness of petals against the roughness of root, the fleeting life of flowers against the slow endurance of wood. Together, they create harmony, a living painting where every glance reveals new textures and shapes. What makes root edging so enchanting is its uniqueness. No two roots are ever the same. Each one bends differently. Each one tells its own story. Some resemble animal forms, others twist like ribbons frozen in motion. Guests may lean closer, tracing shapes with their eyes, imagining the creatures hidden in the wood. Durable, natural, and entirely free, root sculpture edging is both functional and poetic. It marks the boundary of the garden, protects the soil, and at the same time turns a small space into an outdoor gallery. In every curve of wood lies the reminder that nothing in nature is wasted. Beauty is simply waiting to be seen. In the world of small gardens, every edge holds the power to shape beauty. Along one such yard, a fence rises not from wood or stone, but from a line of many tires, once worn and forgotten, now painted in vibrant summer hues. Turquoise gleams like the sea, yellow glows like sunlight, and rose whispers of blooming petals. Each tire, transformed into a planter, cradles its own burst of life. Petunias spilling over in cascades of purple, marigolds glowing like tiny lanterns, daisies swaying with every breeze. The making of this fence is as joyful as its appearance. The small tires are cleaned, coated in bright or pastel paint, and filled with rich soil. Positioned side by side, they form a low boundary that both defines and decorates the garden. Some gardeners stack 2 tires together for height, while others arrange them in playful patterns, creating a border that feels alive with rhythm and color. What makes this design so charming is the way flowers and tires work together. The tires give shape, weight, and permanence. The flowers bring movement, fragrance, and seasonal change. Over time, trailing plants spill gracefully down the sides, softening the structure until it seems like the blooms themselves built the fence. Children delight in helping paint the tires, choosing colors and flowers for each section. Neighbors stop to admire the playful arrangement, curious about how waste could be turned into such a joyful feature. At night, when the moonlight falls across the garden, the painted surfaces still catch a glimmer, reminding everyone of the creativity that turned trash into treasure. This mini tire planter fence is more than edging. It is a celebration of possibility. In the smallest yards, it proves that borders can bloom, and that beauty often waits in the most unexpected places, ready to grow when given a second life. In the gentle hum of summer, nothing soothes quite like the sound of water. In a small patio garden, where space is precious, a water feature emerges, not from marble or metal, but from the simplest of materials, old plastic bottles. Once empty and discarded, they now sing with the soft rhythm of flowing water, bringing life and serenity to the tiniest of yards. The design is both playful and practical. Bottles are cut and shaped, painted if desired, then arranged so that water trickles from one into another. Some are stacked vertically, others spiraled, each guiding the flow toward a basin lined with smooth stones. A small solar pump can be hidden beneath the surface, recycling the water so it runs endlessly without waste. In daylight, the stream glitters like silver threads. At dusk, the sound alone is enough to cool the air and calm the spirit. Around the fountain, flowers lean closer as though listening. Marigolds glow in fiery clusters, lavender sways with its calming scent, and daisies nod cheerfully in the breeze. The bottles, once symbols of excess and waste, now feel precious, transparent vessels carrying the song of water through the garden. Neighbors are often surprised at the transformation. Who would expect such beauty from trash? Yet it is precisely this contrast that makes the fountain so enchanting. It is not just decoration, but a statement. Creativity can bring peace, even in the smallest corners, even from the humblest beginnings. At night, with solar lights or small lanterns glowing, the water sparkles like liquid gold. The garden becomes more than a space for plants. It becomes a sanctuary. In that steady, gentle trickle lies a reminder that beauty can be built from patience, imagination, and a willingness to see value where others see none. There is a special joy in turning the ordinary into something alive with imagination. Along the border of a tiny yard, the soil is guarded not by plain stones, but by a parade of painted animals. Bright red ladybugs crawl along the edge, their glossy shells shining in the sun. Turtles rest peacefully, their shells painted in swirls of green and gold. A few bees buzz in cheerful yellow and black, their painted smiles watching over the flowers. It begins with stones, sturdy, smooth, and unremarkable at first glance. With brushes and paint, they become more than rocks. They become companions for the garden. Circles of red transform into ladybugs, ovals of green into turtles, and playful dots and stripes give each creature a personality. Once the paint dries and a protective seal is added, the stones are ready to take their place, lining the flower beds like little guardians. The flowers they protect seem to respond in kind. Marigolds glow brighter against the cheerful reds of the ladybugs. Daisies stand tall beside the turtle shells, and lavender hums quietly as if in harmony with the buzzing bees. For children, the border becomes a storybook world, a place where imagination spills into the soil. Neighbors pause to smile, unable to resist the charm of painted stones turned into living characters. Practical and playful, this edging keeps the soil in place, defines the garden, and adds a unique spark of creativity to even the smallest space. Each rock is durable, weather-resistant, and unlike any other. Together, they create a living border that feels whimsical and strong, grounding the garden while making it come alive. It is proof that with just paint and vision, trash and stone can become something far greater. A border that laughs, smiles, and makes every flower bed feel like home to creatures both real and imagined. Sometimes the most practical items hide the greatest potential for beauty. In a small garden where space is precious, even old buckets, scratched, dented, once forgotten, can be reborn as a joyful fence. Along the edge of a tiny yard, a row of upcycled buckets now stands proudly, each painted in bright or pastel tones, each brimming with flowers that spill over like laughter. The process is simple, yet endlessly creative. Buckets are washed, their surfaces smoothed, and then brushed with coats of paint, some solid turquoise, others striped in coral and yellow, others softened with pastel lavender and mint. Once dried, they are filled with rich soil and planted with seasonal blooms. Marigolds glowing like golden suns, petunias overflowing with purple, daisies swaying in white and yellow cheer. Side by side, the buckets become both fence and flower bed, guiding the eye along the garden's path. What makes this design special is its flexibility. Buckets can be arranged in a straight line for neat order or in playful staggered patterns for a more whimsical charm. Some gardeners tie them with rustic rope, others place them snugly together, creating a border that is sturdy, functional, and bursting with life. The effect is enchanting. In daylight, the painted surfaces gleam against the green grass, while the flowers above them form a crown of color. At dusk, solar lights can be tucked between the buckets, making the border glow softly into the evening. Children love to help paint the patterns, neighbors smile at the cleverness, and the garden itself feels more alive, framed in this chorus of recycled joy. More than just edging, this upcycled bucket fence is a celebration of possibility. It proves that no item is too ordinary to be transformed, and no yard too small to bloom with personality. What was once utility has become artistry, standing as both protector and storyteller at the edge of the garden. In the quietest corner of a backyard, a little greenhouse stands like a secret treasure. It is not made from glass or polished steel, but from something far humbler. Hundreds of plastic bottles, once discarded, now pieced together into a shining mosaic. Sunlight pours through the curved surfaces, scattering patterns of light across the soil and the leaves within. Inside, life awakens. Basil stretches delicately toward the warmth, lettuce unfurls in tender green, and young tomato vines begin their first climb. The magic lies in the simplicity of its creation. Bottles are cut, stacked, and bound side by side, forming transparent walls strong enough to withstand the breeze, yet gentle enough to let in light. Wooden frames support the structure, while condensation gathers on the inside, creating a natural humidity that nurtures seedlings. What was once trash has become shelter, a cradle for the garden's future. Around this small sanctuary, flowers bloom freely, marigolds glowing bright, daisies dancing in the wind, zinnias painting the ground with color. The contrast is striking. Outside, summer bursts in full bloom. Inside, the promise of tomorrow quietly grows. In a tiny yard where space is scarce, the bottle greenhouse offers abundance, multiplying the gardener's joy. Neighbors often stop and wonder, marveling at how ordinary bottles could be reborn into such a functional beauty. Children peek through the walls, fascinated by the seedlings that live behind the shimmering panels. The greenhouse becomes not only a place of growth, but a lesson in transformation, teaching that waste can become wonder, and that care can turn even the smallest corner into a sanctuary of life. As dusk settles, the bottle walls catch the last rays of sunlight, glowing like lanterns. And within, the plants continue to breathe, grow, and prepare for the harvest to come. In this tiny greenhouse, creativity and nature meet, and the garden whispers of a future built with both hands and hope. There is a quiet poetry in wood that has weathered with time. Along the border of a small garden, rustic logs and tangled roots come together, creating an edging that feels as though it has always belonged to the earth. Each piece carries its own history: the straight strength of a cut log, the wild curves of a root shaped underground, the softness of moss growing gently across its surface. Together, they form a border both strong and beautiful, blending seamlessly with the blooms they guard. The making is simple yet thoughtful. Small logs, gathered from pruned branches or fallen wood, are cut to even lengths and placed upright or sideways in the soil. Between them, roots with natural twists are nestled, their shapes adding character and movement to the line. Twine or rope can be used to bind sections together, ensuring stability while preserving the rustic charm. The result is an edging that is sturdy, durable, and filled with personality. Behind this wooden embrace, the garden thrives. Lavender hums with bees, daisies nod in the breeze, zinnias blaze with color, and marigolds spill warmth across the soil. The flowers seem more alive framed by the wood, as though nature itself is applauding their bloom. In tiny yards, this rustic border creates depth and texture, turning a small space into a scene that feels like a countryside escape. Visitors often pause, enchanted by its simplicity. Neighbors might see only fallen logs and discarded roots, but here they have become art, functional, grounding, and timeless. Even as seasons change, the border endures, softening with weather, growing richer in color, and blending more deeply into the soil. This rustic log and root edging is more than a garden boundary. It is a reminder that beauty lies not in perfection, but in the stories written by time, carried in wood, and now shared with every flower it protects. On the wooden fence of a tiny garden, something unexpected sways gently in the summer breeze. Old tires, once heavy and forgotten, now hang like playful swings, painted in colors that sing of joy: turquoise, coral, lavender, and mint. Within each circle of rubber, life blossoms. Marigolds burn in golden clusters, petunias trail in waves of purple and pink, and nasturtiums spill like flowing ribbons of orange. The fence, once plain, has become a stage where flowers dance from the sky. The transformation begins with simple steps. Tires are scrubbed clean, their surfaces coated with bright or pastel paint to withstand the seasons. Strong ropes or chains secure them to the fence, hanging them like suspended frames. Once filled with soil, they become planters, their hollow forms cradling blooms and herbs that overflow as though reaching for freedom. The round shapes add rhythm and movement, breaking the straight lines of the fence with curves of color and life. In daylight, the tires shine against the wood, their painted surfaces glowing under the sun. By evening, the flowers catch the fading light, their petals soft but still vibrant, their fragrance spilling gently into the air. In tiny yards or patios, where ground space is scarce, these hanging tire planters offer height and drama, transforming vertical surfaces into living walls of creativity. Children marvel at the swinging gardens, neighbors pause to admire the colors, and the gardener smiles, knowing that what was once trash now sparks delight. The fence no longer feels like a barrier. It feels alive, playful, and welcoming, telling a story of renewal. This tire swing planter fence is not just decoration. It is an invitation to see the garden differently. It proves that even what is old and worn can rise again, holding beauty, laughter, and the promise of endless summer bloom.